Hello and welcome back to the VoV Network, where great things are always happening. So in today's video, we're going to focus on a very interesting subject, and it actually revolves around one four-letter word. And the four-letter word is fear. And specifically regarding fear, we're also going to talk about some of the elements of it, such as fear of success, fear of failure, fear of just general change, and what that means and how we can go about trying to overcome any of the challenges we may face when we talk about that dreaded word, fear. Interested in learning more? Stick around. Let's check it out. My name is Brian Murray, and I'm the founder of the VoV Network. What we want to talk about in today's video is something called fear of change. But to really understand that, we need to kind of get a better understanding of fear in general and the types of fear that we're talking about here. And again, we're not talking about the type of fear like I'm scared to skydive or I don't like spiders or those kinds of things. We really need to start to understand the types of fear and mainly break down a couple of different things. So some of the things we're going to be talking about are the tangible versus intangible things related to fear, as well as the psychological versus the actual physical things that are also related to fear. So it's normal for most of us to have general fears about many different things. As I mentioned earlier, maybe you said you'll never skydive, or bungee jump. Some people have a fear of big dogs, or maybe even things like water. But what types of fears are these, and how do these relate to what I'm referring to today, which is more specific to the fear of change? So first, let's take a little bit of time and talk about tangible versus intangible fear. Tangible in this case versus intangible, we're talking about something that's kind of perceived to be real or something that's not actually real, but we still have a fear of it. So jumping out of a plane, for example, that is a tangible fear because you physically have an impact with the thought of jumping out, the fear of falling, the thought the parachute may never open. Those kinds of things are very tangible, very real type fears. Intangible fears would be situations where you're talking about being afraid to take a leap of faith. Maybe you don't know everything you think you should know about a certain thing. That holds you back. Perhaps you want to go for a promotion on the job that you're on. However, you have a fear of not being able to actually perform the duties once you're in that seat. Those are more along the lines of what we call intangible fears. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that and also contrast them with the second phase of this. This is psychological versus physical fears. The two between intangible and tangible versus psychological and physical actually parallel each other in a lot of different ways. Obviously, if you say there's a physical fear of something, then yes, that means you feel like you're going to have some type of physical impact, some type of physical harm that may come to you should you do X, whatever that might be. So that's a realistic fear to have. And from a psychological standpoint, when you talk about physical versus psychological, there are other fears that because you do have a physical fear, it actually leads to a psychological roadblock in your mind, in your mindset, in your heart, in your gut, that you won't take that leap of faith or take that step. And that's the psychological impacts that are there. That's what we really want to focus in on, what we're talking about here today when we talk about fear of change specifically. Because fear of change definitely is an intangible thing, and it's also a psychological thing. Fear of change comes in many different ways. Fear of change just means you become comfortable in the status quo, whatever that may be in your personal life, business or professional life, or sometimes in your social circles. You become comfortable in that particular environment. You don't want it to change. However, the challenge when you get in those situations is without taking some risk, opening yourself up to change, sometimes there's also no growth. And that's part of what this video is about too, is we want you to kind of face fear, crush fear, so you can move forward and grow, evolve to be a different and better you as you move forward in your life. Now, the other piece of that is when we talk about the psychological aspects of it. Obviously, the mind is a terrible thing. As they say, you've probably heard that quote, because it can really get in the way of how you go about applying your skills, your talents, and your abilities, because you have this innate fear of sometimes it's fear of success, which is a very interesting thing to say, but people actually sometimes don't do because they may succeed at it. And then once they succeed at whatever it is, now they have an issue because now there's a new expectation, a new level that they've raised themselves to that they have to be able to control and maintain. The other piece of that is a fear of failure. And we've all heard that term 1,000 times, I'm sure, fear of failure. However, the only way you're truly going to succeed at anything, or especially succeed greatly, is you have to fail. One of the greatest stories I ever heard talking about failing, but eventually leading you to succeeding, is revolving around Thomas Edison, who discovered the light bulb. And this story goes, and again, that's just how I heard it, that obviously this is a new invention. Everybody goes, electricity, what? Well, I mean, a light bulb, what are you talking about? So he went to many banks, many investors, trying to get someone to bankroll and finance his new discovery. Bank after bank, person after person, up to the number 300. And from the way the story is told, it was the 300th person that he had approached with this idea that finally said, yes, I'll support you. Talking about perseverance, persistence, not letting the failure or the fear of failing stop him from trying to achieve his goals. And that's really what we want to talk about today, because the only way that you can move forward to groom yourself to be a better you, to get a better grasp on your mindset as a leader or an influencer in the world today, is you've got to be able to let go of those fears so that you can take that giant step forward and continue to take one more step after the next step, after the next step, and move on, and so forth and so on. That's going to be the biggest key, is being able to understand and process what is it that's holding you back from making that decision. Is it a situation where you're thinking, I really shouldn't do that because I'm comfortable, it puts me at risk, maybe it puts your family at risk because you're thinking about the financial aspects of it, etc. But it's also kind of like winning in the lottery, right? People say, well, I'm never going to win the lottery, so I'm never going to buy a ticket. Well, there you go. I mean, that speaks in itself, right? Because yes, you will never win if you never enter in that particular scenario. So the same goes for succeeding in different things that may force you to have to change your habits, learn new skills, apply yourself in a different way, and obviously open up and expose yourself to new opportunities as well as new risks associated with those opportunities. So how do we go about doing that? What are some of the things that you can do to start to help you change and get past that fear of change as you move forward? So obviously one of the first things that you need to do when it comes to conquering fear is belief. Self-belief is the most important aspect of it. So those one of the areas we definitely want to focus in on, because without having that self-belief and that self-confidence, then obviously all of the things in the world are going to tear away at you going, you're not good enough, you're not ready, and all the other things that little person on your shoulder might be whispering in your ear from time to time. You must have the self-confidence and the perseverance to continue to push through it. One of the key things that you need to focus in on. There are many techniques and different things that we can do to help you with that. And on the VoV Network website, you can find a wealth of information to be able to help you down that road. Another part of it that you want to also do is do some self-study, some self-guidance. Something like books, reading, and I'll put a link to this book. It's basically about unlocking your inner potential. What that'll do for you is two things. It's going to give you an opportunity to truly do some self-evaluation, first and foremost. Maybe understand and also discover some new talent, skills, or attributes that you didn't even know you had. And then give you a framework and a guideline to go about actually taking what you've learned and putting that into some type of action plan. And a manageable action plan where you kind of chunk it out into pieces where you take it through step by step. And that's one of the biggest keys too as you work your way. Because again, you have to remember, most of what's really in your way is not something that's actually physical or even tangible. It's that intangible psychological thing that we need to break down. And the biggest way to get past that is by having the wealth of knowledge, confidence in yourself, and having a plan to follow as you work your way through it. So there are lots of other things, many other techniques that we can get into. and we'd be glad to help you along this journey. That's the purpose of the VoV Network. We're here to provide insight, inspiration, and also empowerment so that you can continue to grow and groom yourself to be the best possible you that you can be. If you found value in this video, definitely like and subscribe. We will be releasing new videos weekly on different topics from leadership to self-improvement, other business-related things, how to be more influential, all kinds of various subjects. And with that in mind, in the comments, leave us some thoughts on how you felt about this video, and also leave some comments, some videos you'd like to see us do in the future. What would you like to see that would help you start to groom and grow yourself as you move forward? Love to hear that. As always, thank you for watching. We look forward to going along on this journey with you. And until the next video, take care.